Hi, it's Friday, and I have Hayden Bush here from the Farm Bureau. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Friday.
Yeah,
Woohoo.
It's good to be here.
Yes, although as a farmer, well, you're not technically a farmer, but I mean, you are, but not, because you also do other things.
Yep.
Do you get the weekends off?
No.
Yeah, that's life. Hey, we're in legislative session right now, or the state is, right? So
Yep.
There's a lot of bills you want to kind of talk about that
yeah.
are coming through.
Yep.
I've heard a few. Are you going to talk about the odor bill at all? Because I thought that one was
that's
kind
one
of
that I'll mention, but not
funny.
I'm not really going to talk about anything in depth. More
Okay.
or less, just
mention what's going on.
yeah. I mean, we have a busy legislative session. It's the long session, the regular session. So
Yep. 6
they're not
months or
trying
something.
to backdoor any bills on us so quickly this time. So there's a little bit of a chance to relax, but relaxing in the legislative session is not really anything. So really what I want to convey the message on behalf of Farm Bureau and behalf of agriculturalists here in the county is, if we don't tell our story, somebody else is going to.
And it's probably not going to be accurate.
Exactly. And that's exactly what this is boiling down to. Somebody else has got there before us, whether that's groups with special interest or groups that just don't have a full understanding of what's going on. And so one of the things that the Farm Bureau has always been an advocate for is getting out there and telling your story to your legislators, even if it doesn't necessarily have the substance to make policy or anything like that, just so that they know that, you come from a third generation farm and you had to cut down on cows or sell your cows because of this regulation
Right.
or whatever it may be, and most of the time that's all it takes is just telling your story, and people kind of understand, oh, that's why things are the way they are. And ag and fisheries and forestry are always trying to work together with folks, but we're never, I don't want to say never, rarely are we given a seat at the table for those discussions. And
Sure.
so that's the important part for us, is just being there and telling that story. So there's a slew of bills on the floor right now that's what it boils down to, is a lack of knowledge.
Sure. Well, and when you don't, if you don't have access to that, it's not anybody's necessarily a fault. It's
Right.
just if they don't have access and they don't know, how would they know? You don't know what you don't know.
Well, we're blessed to have the legislators we have.
Absolutely.
For Tillamook County.
Yeah.
Senator Johnson, I feel more than comfortable picking my phone up and calling her at any time on anything that I need to, and not feeling like I'm going to be a burden to her.
Right.
Same with Gomberg and Roblin and Debbie Boone and a lot of the folks that represent our area, really, really understanding of what we have going on. And they take the time to listen, and whether or not they support the things that, some of their constituents support, they're at least there listening. And so it kind of brings me to one of the main points why I wanted to come in today, and that's to plug the Ways and Means Committee meeting that is tonight.
Which is tonight at 6 o'clock?
6 to 8 at the Port of Tillamook Bay Mess Hall, Officers Mess Hall. I'll make mention of some of these bills, but there are a lot of bills that will affect Tillamook County. That's agriculture, that's tourism, that's everything in Tillamook County. And so we need to have our voices heard, whether you're in support or against these bills and these topics at hand. You need to have your voice heard regardless.
And this is a good way to do it without having to travel to the valley.
Yep, exactly.
Is to go, it's just right here at the port.
I'm anticipating that the Officers Mess Hall may not be big enough, because I've
hope so.
Gone to a couple of these in other parts of the state this year, and
There's
it's
a lot of
just
people.
packed.
Yeah.
And they'll put a 2-minute timer up if you're testifying, and it's probably the most intimidating timer you've ever seen.
I was going to say, you think 2 minutes doesn't sound like, well, you think it sounds like a lot of time. 2 minutes, that's actually, if you just sit for 2 minutes, it seems, but when you're talking and you have a lot of points to make, 2 minutes goes in like
short.
a second. Yeah.
So my advice is, if there's anybody out there that wants to have their voice heard about anything that's going on, get there and get there early. Starts at 6, get there an hour, even more, hour and a half early, and sign up. I know I'll be there probably 4:30 because I've got some spots that I need to sign up for, and I'm somewhat worried that I will still be halfway down the list if I show up at that time. So
gotcha.
Get there early, and
so
get
you
your
sign
voices
up
heard.
When you go, you sign up, and whoever's first goes first. Type of thing. First
it's
come,
just
first serve.
a list.
Yeah.
A list, and it goes in that order typically.
Yeah.
So
what are some of the things that concern you or the Farm Bureau as far as what's being... Yeah, I know you said you could mention a few. Maybe you could.
One of the things, and there might be a little more personal note to this, but one of the things that we have is as a real issue in agriculture in general, this is nationwide, actually it's really worldwide, is the age of the folks that are entering leadership roles in agriculture, whether that's CEOs of companies or that's the person who owns and operates any type of agricultural commodity business or a dairy farm or a wheat farm or whatever that may be. The average age of the farmer is 55 to 57 and going up.
Right.
And
because we get older.
Exactly. And there's not...
We don't regress.
People coming in to replace...
Sure. I read something
farms.
about this recently, yeah.
And so one of the things that has been on the forefront of everybody's mind, and this is not even related to ag, is how do we increase graduation rates in high schools? And what we've actually identified through a lot of research is that's directly tied to career and technical education, and specifically agricultural education. So there's a bill. If you go to the Ways and Means Committee tonight, you're going to see a lot of people in blue FFA jackets. There's a bill on the floor on both the House and Senate side that would allot some federal funding to specifically career and technical education and agricultural education in the state.
That's interesting.
To bolster these programs, and the science and the research is there that proves that these help those graduation rates.
Right.
And so we want to take advantage of that while we can, and bolster our statewide programs, but also what that would mean for this community is quite a bit of monetary resource for the high schools at Nestucca and Tillamook and potentially into Neocani if they're interested to utilize some of these funds to bolster programs that fall into that career technical education.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So that's one that kind of non-ag, everybody can kind of relate to that one.
Yeah, but kind of still. I mean, it's down the line there, the
Exactly.
early timeline of agriculture. Hey, I'm going to take a quick break, and then if you want to mention another one. Let's see, Rosenbergs. Where do you go to find almost anything you need for home improvement? I'll tell you where, Rosenbergs. Rosenbergs has been your local connection for anything you need to build and finish your house to perfection. Carpet, cabinets, paint, electrical, plumbing, nuts and bolts, fencing, windows, doors, and so much more. All those items in one place, but that's only part of the story. What really makes Rosenbergs your stop for home improvement is their people. Their knowledgeable, friendly staff is there to help you through any project. Any question from what paint you should use to how to install a new shower valve, you can get the help you need to do it right the first time. Stop by Rosenbergs today to rediscover what you've known all along. It's better to shop local and work with great people that you can see every day. Build it, plumb it, wire it, paint it. Rosenberg Builder Supply, Tillamook. Rosenbergs is also a Farm Bureau member, aren't they?
I believe so.
I think they are.
I try to do all the business I can at Rosenberg's.
There you go.
I enjoy walking in there. They're always friendly. And
their new remodel is so nice.
Great.
I know.
It's
I mean,
nice.
it's been a while, but since they've done it, but it's still, I walk in there like, oh yeah, that's right. I don't have to listen to those little cones telling me to watch my step.
They carry Craftsman tools, so I don't have to go to Sears anymore. I can just go right here. So.
Nice. Sweet.
Yep.
So we're talking with Hayden Bush from the Farm Bureau. What's something else that's kind of on your forefront there for the bills?
Well, this one I have to be a little bit careful of because of my stance as an Oregon State University employee, but there are some bills on the floor that actually deal with the fundings of statewides for Oregon State University. And what a statewide is essentially the outreach and extension service. The OSU Extension Service here in Tillamook County is an asset to our county through the 4-H programs, but also through the economic development, the inclusion programs that they have. It's something that Extension used to be all about cows, plows, and sows, and it's developed into so much more. And so that funding is essential for us to operate the way that we need to operate. So there's a bill on the floor there to request essentially full funding for that. We're fairly certain that we will get adequate funding. We just want to get to the point where we don't have to make major cuts, which is the concern for a lot of people. And we know that. So it's really a matter of prioritizing where the funds are going to go rather than creating new funds. But the statewides definitely deal with a lot with agriculture. But again, they reach out to the 4-H programs and the youth in our county here. And so they're very important. And that's a bill that a couple bills out there that really have a positive impact on our county here. At specific to the Ways and Means Committee that's going to be here tonight, there are a lot of bills that deal with the way that farmers and also just community members can operate in taking care of their land. There's some weed control bills about noxious weeds that basically would help to improve our noxious weed program within the state. If you've kayaked any of the rivers around here or really just driven around the county, you'll see noxious weeds towards the springtime really popping up. And so there's some opportunity to jump onto some of that to control or help to control some of those outbreaks, so to speak, of noxious weeds. And then, of course, we're always dealing with water, whether that's for residential, agricultural, commercial use. There are a ton of bills out there dealing with water usage that kind of go both ways. They're positive for ag in some respects, and they can be negative in others, and the same on the residential and commercial uses as well. So other than those things, of course, there are tons of groups whose funding are going to be
affected in some way.
Impacted in some way, shape, or form by the fact that we have a budget shortfall, as seems like we do every year. And so as we...
A big one, although we were talking yesterday, not you, somebody else, I think Bruce was here. We were kind of joking about it because Shayna said, I remember when it was in the millions that was a shortfall, and now it's in the billions.
Yep. And then it just seems to be something we're kind of
and it's a projected. Bruce made a very good point. He said, "Well, and remember, it's a projected budget,
right?
So it's based on what will happen is when actually the money comes in and the funding comes in, then obviously it changes. But
and we'll know a little bit more when it actually transacts. But,
right? Exactly.
But we're preparing for what seems like what we're always preparing for, and that is that budget shortfall. And so, as we look at some of those things, ag is not the only important group out there, and so to non-agricultural listeners that are listening, we're here to support things that we really need to support that will enhance the economic viability of our county. So we're not always exclusive to just ag. We're very concerned about the well-being of our county, period.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I think folks sometimes lose a little bit of sight of, is that we're just farming, and that's not necessarily
You're talking about
always
the Farm Bureau,
case.
you mean?
Yeah, the Farm Bureau itself. We support Tillamook County really in general, and because we're so agriculturally based, of course, there's a lot of things that we can support on the ag front. But if there's any bills out there that are just going to be beneficial to our community, we're obviously going to be behind those as well.
Yeah. So you said you mentioned you've been to Ways and Means meetings before. So do they talk about, do they get up and talk about things, or how does that work? Do they just, it's a list and say, okay, go, and nobody has really an introduction or anything? It's
usually a little bit different per area, but the last ones I've been to, basically they give an overview, kind of a state of the state overview.
Gotcha.
They'll talk about things that are opportunities that, or at least that the legislators see, and then talk about some of where we're heading with things, and then they open it. And it's mostly the constituents who are talking about the problems, or a lot of times there's praise also. It's not always just complaining and I need money. A lot of times it's thank you for supporting this, and here's the outcome, which is pretty neat for the communities to hear too.
Yeah. So it's really for kind of the legislators to get different feedback from all areas of the state, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the Ways and Means Committee.
It's not easy for everyone to drive to the Valley, and who wants,
or the
can't stay there for the day, right? Yeah, if you're in Eastern Oregon.
And it's the Ways and Means Committee is built up of representatives and senators from all over the state.
Gotcha.
So it's really good for somebody like Senator Johnson to get over to Ontario to hear what their problems are, because they're going to be much different than our constituents here.
Right.
So,
but it's not really a discussion forum. It's more just people, you get 2 minutes to say whatever you need to say and then on to the next, or
it can vary. The intent is not typically to have
a debate,
debate or to question the person testifying. The intent is typically you get the opportunity to get your point across.
Gotcha.
That's really what it boils down to.
Gotcha. So that's, again, what you said, tonight at 6 o'clock, right?
6 to 8. Yep.
I don't know why I keep thinking 6:30. 6 o'clock tonight out at the Officers Mess Hall at the Port. Go talk about whatever you need to talk about.
Get out there and tell your story, because somebody else will if you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, get there early and When you said early, I thought, like half an hour. And then you said an hour and a half. And I thought, oh my. Yeah.
I could be surprised, but like I said, I've been to some of these in other parts of the state this year, and standing room only if you can get in the door. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. And this is probably the smallest venue that I can
think of, physically.
Yeah. That they've had one. So.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting.
Yep.
I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to talk about the Regional Medical Center. Colorectal cancer, the second leading cause of cancer death in men and women, is expected to kill more than 50,000 Americans this year. Yet at least a third of those 50 and older aren't getting tested. It's one of the easiest cancers to prevent through regular screenings that can help catch small abnormal growths in the colon called polyps so they can be removed before turning cancerous. A colonoscopy only takes 30 to 60 minutes, and in addition to getting screened, regular exercise and maintaining a healthy weight can help prevent colorectal cancer. Shed those extra pounds around the tummy by getting 30 minutes of moderate daily activity and improving your diet. Quitting smoking can also help. People who smoke are 18% more likely to develop colorectal cancer. March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. That's a mouthful. And if you're 50 to 75, you should be having regular screenings. Contact Tillamook Regional Medical Center to schedule an appointment with a primary care provider or to find out more about getting screened. So we're talking with Hayden Bush from the Farm Bureau. You're in a new building.
Yes. Yeah. So one of the
it's exciting,
unique opportunities that some of the organizations in Tillamook County have had recently was essentially to come together and create, for lack of a better term, a coalition of service organizations. And so Tillamook Bay Community College partnered with Oregon State University and the Small Business Development Center and Visit Tillamook Coast to basically build a building that will serve as a hub for leadership opportunities for our youth, for educational opportunities for youth on up. I've heard the term K through 80 before.
Oh, that's cute.
All the way through, your whole life. And
sure.
And also for folks who are wanting to start or bolster their businesses, all in one spot, which is really neat. And what we found was a lot of times in our working, we get a question that really would be better answered by somebody at Small Business Development.
Sure, yeah.
So it's really nice to just say, hey, walk across the hall and go talk to Mike there. And or for them, vice versa, they can get the business help they need with starting a business, but they might have some agricultural or health questions, and they can send to some of our professors of practice over at the Oregon State office. So really a neat opportunity. The dedication for that's going to be on Monday evening, and so that building
what
is,
time?
I believe it's 4:00.
Okay.
That building is really a beautiful building, and it's a symbol of the rural development of Tillamook County and where we're heading. And where we're heading is that we're going to support rural development as much as we possibly can, to the extent that we can,
right?
Because that's really what drives our county. The tourism dollars, the agricultural dollars, and the business dollars. I mean, if you take all that away, there's not much here. So,
yeah, it's really nice to have, like you said, and not only just have all those businesses or all those organizations in one building, but then TBCC is across the street.
Yep, exactly.
So if you need to do, hey, there's a class, and maybe you're talking to Mike at the Small Business Development Center, and he says, oh, hey, by the way, there's a class over at TBCC coming up that would be perfect for you. Head on over there.
Yep, exactly. And
registered.
It's nice too, because it houses the Tillamook Bay Community College Agriculture and Natural Resource Program, which is my job to head.
Yep.
And that is really neat that we have our own space now, because now what we have is a classroom learning environment that we can utilize to the best that we need to. We don't need to share with any of the other folks anymore. And so it's really going to change the way we teach our classes in a positive way. Plus, we have the asset of Oregon State right there.
Right. So which I know it gave them more space too, because they were having a hard time maintaining everything that was in that little building.
You wouldn't believe the amount of stuff that they stuffed in that little building. I'll tell you that much. It was crazy. One
of the ladies was in and said, yeah, we're going through a lot of paperwork right now. I guess a couple of them like to keep papers.
I won't make a comment.
Scan it in, and then you have it electronically for the rest of your life until you accidentally delete it. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's funny, somebody called it the other day the PRA building, and I was like, wait, Partners for Rural Innovation. But so if you hear not just the other TBCC building, sometimes it's called PRI.
And there's signage on the side of the building. We haven't got the sign finished yet, mainly due to weather. It's kind of hard to paint or have glue set in the rain.
Right.
So,
or snow.
Yeah, exactly. Or the snow. So, but take a look if you're going down 3rd Street, that 3rd Street corridor. The landscape's changed a little bit, so feel free to stop in and take a look. And
totally related, but not kind of weirdly unrelated. There's a crosswalk there now, which I like that they have blinking signs. And I mean, they made it real obvious that there's a crosswalk, but now you have to pay attention. There is a crosswalk that goes between TBCC and the building now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I mean,
it's not like it's in the middle of a corner. I mean, you see it.
It's probably used more than any other crosswalks on 3rd Street
probably.
now because there's people going back and forth.
Totally.
So there are going to be people crossing there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it'll be nice. Well, I guess at fair time, but it'll be nice for the OSU folks at fair time because then the dorm is right there for the 4-H people. But I have a feeling you'll probably have some fun parking issues.
I believe there was something in the works to make a deal to be able to utilize that for fair parking.
That'd be great.
I can't speak on that specifically.
We're not promising anything.
I believe that there was, that used to be an open lot that they used for fair parking. So we want to be able to make sure that they still have some space there. Yeah. And I do know that the grass lot next to it is still going to be used for parking.
Nice. So. And Gary was in here recently and was talking about kind of their putting art, but photographs, historic photographs, and they're going to be switching those out periodically. And
yeah, it's really neat. The Albrights and the Pioneer Museum came through and the theme this go around seems to be very much fishing and natural resources. And the walls are just lined with art. Photographs, old photographs of this community north and south, and just a really cool story of history. And then those will be switched out every, I believe it's 6 months. I might be wrong there, but with a different theme.
Yeah.
And so it really showcases the rural aspect of our community. And somebody made frames for those that were made out of
their interns. That was their interns. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Over
They're
at
awesome.
Pioneer Museum.
They did a great job.
That's what I heard.
They look kind of like an older, raw wood look to them, and it matches the building and complements the building a lot, but also another nod to our rural heritage here in Tillamook. And so really a neat partnership to have. The Pioneer Museum's great. The Albrights are great supporters of Oregon State and also Tillamook Bay. And so it's really cool to be able to showcase, the history of our community in that building as well.
Yeah, he said fishing's right now, and then he said they're going to do timber and dairy, and so it'll be really, maybe schools will be one of the theme, all the different schools that are around.
Yeah.
Yeah, really neat. Yeah, and they're the Pioneer Museum is, well, they're closed right now, but they open on Tuesday, and he said they have like 30,000 pictures or something, or 13,000 in their archives. Just, I mean, you can't put all those pictures out.
Yep.
So they went through and they've pulled a bunch, and that's what their current exhibit at the Pioneer Museum is going to be. It's just a bunch of pictures that, showcasing the history of Tillamook County that people haven't really seen before.
Yeah, there's some really cool things out there. I stumbled across one this morning on the internet about putting milk cans into boats because there was a lack of bridges way back in the day. And so that's how they transported milk cans across the rivers, was through boats, and they'd get them across the river and then take them down to get them processed at wherever their closest creamery was. A lot more work.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of work.
A lot of weight in one boat, it seems like.
Yeah, well, you couldn't put that's a lot of trips because you can't put very much in one boat.
It's pretty cool. I mean, that's something that somebody my age would never have known had they not seen pictures.
Right, yeah, exactly. Did we cover everything you wanted to talk about?
One last thing along the lines of the age of the average farmer. Tillamook County Farm Bureau has seen that and have heard the concerns of our members, and because of that, we're putting together a presentation on farm succession planning. I can speak personally on farm succession planning that I wish this was done at an earlier date, because I've seen, including on personal levels, so many times where succession planning wasn't done either at all or was kind of done
started,
loosely,
not finished,
and it's really affected in both negative and positive ways the folks that are on the other end of that, on the younger generations. And so we're going to have some folks from Rogue Farm Corps and an attorney come in and talk about the facts of how ag land is changing hands, specific to Tillamook County and Oregon, And, with 2/3 of Oregon farmland scheduled to change hands in the next 20 years because of that age of the farmer, most farmers actually do not have a succession plan. Whether that plan is we're going to sell it when we're done or we're going to turn it over to our son or daughter, there is no succession plan on 2/3 of the farmland in Oregon.
And a lot of that needs to be done via paper. I mean, there's, I'm sure, a lot of paperwork that has to be filled out, like you said, a lawyer and things like that. So, yeah, and that's not necessarily what people think about.
We want people to come in and learn how to plan their legacy. And the truth is that most of the folks out there have a plan. It's just not on paper, exactly what you mentioned. And getting it on paper, learning who to work with, learning how to work with folks, and also hearing maybe some ideas of how to set it up, because a lot of the times too there may be multiple family members involved. So it's not always simple. Like, man, I wish it was simple, but it's something that we heard a need for, and we're hopefully gonna bring here to Tillamook County. At this point, the location is to be announced. Again, it's Monday, March 20th at 6:00. Working on hopefully hosting that maybe at the new PRI building on 3rd Street, but we don't have a confirmation on that yet. And there will be dinner at the nominal cost that basically just covers the food.
Gotcha.
So we do dinner for all of our Farm Bureau meetings, but with that...
gotcha. Is that a farm? That's a Farm Bureau meeting.
Yeah,
gotcha.
So the Farm Bureau is holding that. It's really important, as somebody who's been on the other end of succession planning that didn't work out so well for. We need to make sure that our folks are out there and really have a plan for the future. And obviously we can't push things on folks that aren't ready or that don't want to, but
having the knowledge is half the battle.
Exactly.
Right there.
Just simply knowing will help loads. I mean, if we can save one farm from being, shut down in the future because nobody wanted to take it over or whatever that may be, then we feel like we've accomplished the purpose that we set out to do. So
cool. I wrote it down, so I'll make sure I start mentioning it as we get closer.
Thank you.
Let's see. Monday, we'll have someone in from the Garibaldi crab races. That's always fun. I'm sure I'll get a necklace. Don't forget senior meals, 11:30 at St. Mary's by the Sea in Rockaway Beach every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also noon every weekday at the Kiowanda Community Center in Pacific City, as well as the Tillamook Senior Center at 4th and Stillwell. Cost is $3 for seniors and $6.75 for everyone else. As we mentioned tonight, the Ways and Means Committee will be at the Officers Mess Hall out at the port, inviting folks to talk about what they feel is important. This meeting will start at 6:00, but as Hayden mentioned, get there early, and a lot early, like an hour early. Today is also first Friday of March, which means the Blue Heron is hosting some March Madness fun starting at 4:30. They'll have food from Las Margarita, 3 for free with Pelican Brewing, and live music with Chez Proulier. It is the final weekend for Tapa's A Sting in the Tail, which runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Tapa's Barn Community Playhouse. Friday and Saturday show starts at 7 and Sunday starts at 2. Tickets for this comedic thriller are available at Diamond Art Jewelers, 842-7940, or at the door. Tomorrow is the Bulls and Barrels event at the fairgrounds. The inside event starts at 9:30 with a play day, which is free to spectators, and then the main event starts at 7 o'clock with doors opening at 5:30. It's $10 admission. And then Casa is having bingo at the port tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. for ages 21 and up. It is $20 admission, which includes 2 drink tickets and 2 bingo cards. There will also be beer and wine sales, an auction, and snacks. And happy birthday to Ricky Reed. Hey, thanks, Hayden, for coming in today.
Absolutely.
Have
Always
a good
a pleasure.
weekend. And thank you, Tillamook, for listening.